I want to play a game with you. Before I show you any data, I want you to guess. At what age do you think the average American hits $100,000 in net worth? Think about it for a second. And now, at what age do they hit 500,000 and 1 million? Hold those guesses in your head, because the real numbers are going to surprise you in at least one direction. And understanding the gap between what you guessed and what is actually true is the most useful thing you can do for your financial psychology right now. My name is Donald Cash. Double chin, gold tie, Jerome, who has a net worth that is difficult to calculate precisely, but consists primarily of one couch, one food bowl, and zero financial anxiety. Today, the real data on wealth milestones, actual ages, actual numbers, and the thing most financial content gets completely wrong about how to interpret them. Let me start with the data. Then I will tell you why most people are using it incorrectly. The source I am using today, the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances and Empower's personal dashboard data as of January 2026. Let me start with net worth by decade. Americans in their 20s. Average net worth, $139,243. That sounds reasonable. The median, $6,600. Let me repeat that. The median American in their 20s has $6,600 in net worth. That means if you own a modest car worth more than $7,700 and have little to no debt, you are above the median for your age group. Americans in their 30s. Average, $325,952. Median, $23,093. Americans in their early to mid-40s, age bracket 35 to 44. Average, $549,000. Median, $135,000. Americans in their late 40s to mid-50s, age bracket 45 to 54. Average, $1,560,000. Median, $247,000. Americans 55 to 64, average $1,578,000. Median, $601,000. Now, before I go any further, I need to explain something fundamental about these numbers, because if you use them the wrong way, they will make you feel worse about your situation than you should, and worse than the data actually warrants. There are two very different numbers here, average and median. Average is calculated by adding up all the net worth in a group and dividing by the number of people. It is powerfully affected by outliers, by the person in the room with $50 million, by the person with 20 million, by the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezoses and Bill Gateses. Median is the middle number. Half the people are above it, half are below. It is affected by outliers much less. It is far more representative of what a typical person actually has. Here is the simplest way to understand why this matters. Put 100 people in a room. 99 of them have $50,000 in net worth. One of them has 50 million. The average net worth in that room, $545,500. The median net worth, $50,000. Which number tells you what a typical person in that room has? The median, obviously, by a wide margin. This is exactly what happens with national wealth data. The top 1% of Americans hold 31.4% of all wealth, roughly $44.6 trillion. They pull the average up so dramatically that the average net worth number at almost every age describes almost nobody. The average net worth for Americans 45 to 54 is $1,560,000. The median is $247,000, a 6 times gap between the average and what a typical person at that age actually has. If you have $247,000 at 50, you are exactly in the middle, not behind, not ahead. Median, half of Americans your age have more, half have less. That is your real benchmark, not the average. Now, let me answer the actual question in this video's title. At what age do Americans actually hit the major milestones? $100,000 net worth. Based on the Federal Reserve data and Empower's 2026 dashboard, the median American household reaches approximately $100,000 in net worth, somewhere in their mid to late 30s, around age 36 to 39 for the typical household. But here is the important nuance. A significant portion of that net worth is home equity, not liquid savings, not investment accounts. Equity in a primary residence. If we are talking about $100,000 in invested assets 401k IRA brokerage accounts, the median American reaches that milestone later, often in their mid-40s. The average first-time homebuyer in 2026 is 40 years old. That means many Americans are not building home equity until 40, which delays the net worth milestone. And the median American, under 35, has only $39,000 in total net worth, not investments, total, including home equity, vehicles, everything minus debt. The first 100,000 is genuinely hard for most people. We will come back to why in a moment. $500,000 net worth. The median American household does not reach $500,000 in net worth until somewhere in their late 50s. The 55 to 64 bracket shows a median of approximately $601,000. The median 45 to 54-year-old has $247,000. The median 55 to 64-year-old has $601,000. The jump between those 2 decades is dramatic. $254,000 in median wealth added in roughly 10 years. Why such a large jump in that decade? Mortgages are being paid down. Home values have appreciated. Children are finishing school. Income is often at its peak. And critically, the compounding base built in their 30s and 40s is now large enough to generate meaningful growth on its own. This is the decade where wealth building actually accelerates for most people. And it is also the decade where most people feel most behind, because they are comparing themselves to the average, which is over $1 million, rather than the median. $1 million net worth. The median American does not reach $1 million in total net worth during their working lifetime. The median 65 to 74-year-old has approximately $747,000 in net worth, short of the million mark. Let me be clear about what that means. I am not saying 1 million is unachievable. I am saying the median American does not hit it. Approximately 15% of American households have crossed the $1 million mark in net worth, top 15%. To be in the top 10% of American households by wealth, you need approximately $1,940,000, almost $2 million. To be in the top 1%, approximately $13,700,000. $1 million is not the middle. It is not even close to the middle. It is the top 15%. When financial content acts as though 1 million is the expected retirement destination for most people, it is describing the top 15% of Americans as though it is the median. Those are 2 very different things. Now I want to tell you about the thing that matters more than any of these numbers, the gap at 55. Research consistently finds that the wealth gap between people at age 55 can exceed $1.5 million. And that gap was created almost entirely by behavior, not by income. Let me repeat that. The difference between having 400,000 and having 1,900,000 at 55 is not primarily about how much people earned. It is about what they did with what they earned. The 4 behaviors that separate these groups. 1. Savings rate. The difference between saving 10% and saving 20% of income over 25 years at 8% annual return is approximately the difference between 830,000 and 1,660,000. Doubling your savings rate roughly doubles your outcome. Same income, different rate. 2. Starting age. Every decade you delay starting seriously costs you approximately half of your potential terminal wealth due to lost compounding. The person who starts at 25 with consistent contributions reaches dramatically different outcomes than the person who starts at 45. Same income, different decade. 3. Car and lifestyle decisions. We have talked about this on this channel before. The vehicle you drive, the house you buy, relative to what you could afford, the lifestyle choices that follow income increases rather than staying fixed. These compound over decades into 6-figure differences. 4. Investment vehicle. People who kept their money in savings accounts, earning near zero, rather than market rate investments, over the same period, have dramatically lower wealth at the same age. Not because of income, because of where the money sat. Same income, different behaviors, different outcomes. The $1.5 million gap at 55. Now, where does Donald Cash fit in all of this? I am 53 years old. My invested portfolio, as of today, approximately $104,000. The median net worth for Americans 45 to 54 is $247,000. I am below the median for my age bracket. I want to be transparent about that, because I think it is more useful than pretending. I made expensive mistakes in my early 50s with individual stock picking. I lost approximately $29,000. I restarted at 51 with the wreckage of those decisions plus whatever I had accumulated before. I am not the example of doing everything right. I am the example of making expensive mistakes and then figuring out the correct path and following it. My portfolio generates approximately $1,400 per month in passive income from dividend ETFs and REITs. My trajectory at current contribution rate and return assumptions, reaches the 100,000 milestone in invested assets, which I have now crossed, and points toward 500,000 in approximately 12 to 14 years, at approximately age 65 to 67. Not fast, not exceptional, honest. And here is what I want you to take from that. If the median 53-year-old has 247,000 in net worth, including home equity, and I have 104,000 in purely invested assets, starting from a significant setback 3 years ago, the math is still working. Slowly, correctly, one compounding cycle at a time. Late is not the same as never. Now let me come back to the first 100,000, because Charlie Munger was right, and I want to explain why. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner, famously said that the first 100,000 is a bitch. He used that exact word. He was an extremely wealthy man who chose that specific word on purpose. Here is the mathematical reason he was right. At $10,000 invested at 8% annual return, your portfolio grows by $800 this year. You contribute perhaps $5,000. Your contribution is 6 times bigger than your portfolio's organic growth. At $50,000 invested at 8%, portfolio grows by $4,000. Your $5,000 contribution is still larger than the organic growth. You are still doing most of the work. At $100,000 invested at 8%, portfolio grows by $8,000. Your $5,000 contribution is now slightly smaller than organic growth. The machine has become a co-contributor. At $250,000, portfolio grows by $20,000 per year. Your contribution is now 1/4 of organic growth. The machine is doing 3 times your work. At $500,000, portfolio grows by $40,000 per year. You contribute $5,000. The machine generates 8 times what you put in. At this point, the second $500,000 arrives faster than the first. At $1 million, portfolio grows by $80,000 per year. More than most Americans save in their entire working life, in a single year. From growth alone, this is why the first 100,000 is the hardest. Not because it requires more work, because it requires the most work relative to what the machine is doing for you. The early years are where human effort dominates. The later years are where compounding dominates. The tragedy is that most people give up during the phase where human effort is dominant because the results feel slow just before the phase where compounding takes over and the results start feeling fast. The people who build significant wealth are not necessarily smarter or higher earners. They are often simply the people who did not give up during the slow phase. Let me give you 3 numbers to carry with you from this video. Number 1. If you have $39,000 or more under age 35, you are above the median for your age group. Number 2. If you have $247,000 or more between ages 45 and 54, you are at the median for your age group. Number 3. $1 million in net worth puts you in approximately the top 15% of American households. Use the median as your benchmark, not the average, not the aspirational number from a financial book, the median, the middle, what a typical person has. If you are at or above the median for your age, you are doing better than half of Americans. That is worth knowing clearly. If you are below the median for your age, you are in the majority. The median is not a comfortable position for most people, but it is honest. And honesty is more useful than feeling behind a number that describes a billionaire inflated average. Jerome has a net worth that is positive, debt-free, and growing slowly in the form of goodwill and strategic napping positions. My tie is still tight. My portfolio is at 104,000, working toward the next milestone. One contribution at a time. Let the money do the work. In the comments, how old are you? And roughly which milestone are you closest to? Not the exact number, just which one. 100,000, 500,000, or the million mark. And whether you are above, at, or below the median for your age. I reply to every comment. Donald Cash, out.